Good evening, everybody. My name is Grev, and welcome to episode 12 of the Rip Roaring Rids podcast. I am joined once again. The boys are back in town. Jace is with me. I'm here. What a time to be alive. How are you, Jace?
Yes, mate. I'm good. I'm enjoying the weekend. Very quiet. I've not looked at the football intentionally because I'm actually going to watch Match of the Day in about an hour and a half's time. It'll be surprising. So yeah, I just had
So
a
I'm
very
not allowed
peaceful...
to say anything about any of the games that I watched today.
Well, you can if you want, but our game's not played
I don't
yet,
want to
right?
ruin your weekend. I don't want to ruin that for you. Come on, man. I'll do that. I'll be nice.
How was the holiday?
Yeah, the holiday was really, really good. Lovely bit of all inclusive. The lemon beer that I had that was on tap there was legit. It was really, really good. In the pool, on the beach, small amount of tan that hopefully you can see on camera. Don't have the
cheeks.
Yeah, a little bit here. You should see my back. That's the back and the shoulders. That's where the red lobster went. But yeah, it was decent. Did you enjoy podding without me?
Yeah, it was an interesting experience to me. First time podding by myself and you're just rambling, talking to yourself. But I played it back to myself just to see if I was making sense. It was all right. A few people said nice things.
Yeah, good. Thanks. I enjoyed it. And it does feel like you're just, a mental person just talking at yourself. But it's amazing how long you can go on for, right? Considering you're just, chatting to yourself.
Yeah. Sometimes I was like, oh shit, I shouldn't swear. Shouldn't have said that. And generally in the podcast, I was like, oh, I shouldn't have said that, using too many silly words. Yeah. But yeah, it's fine. You get used to it after a while.
Good. Well, you've got me back now, right? So we can at least try and bounce some nonsense off each other. So let's do that. In today's pod, we're going to be talking about the Man United game, which is tomorrow at the time of recording. We're also going to talk a little bit about our window, what happened on transfer deadline day, as well as a little bit about our Champions League draw. So let's get into that intro music, and then we can start with our Rip Roaring review.
Saka. Saka! That is a diamond of a goal! It's Bergkamp. That's magnificent!
This is my club. Fucking love this club.
Henry. What a goal! Gabriel Martinelli! He's scoring for Arsenal!
That Gabriel Martinelli scoring for Arsenal is just something I want to hear tomorrow. Feels like we haven't heard it for such a long time.
He's not scored in a while.
No, he hasn't. You're right. And it's, anyway, we'll get into that. We're going to start, as we always do, with our Rip Roaring review. I've already got a very riled up and hot Jace before we press the record button, and I'm sure he's going to continue with that. So tell me, Jace, what is your Rip Roaring review this week?
The ticket situation is a joke. Really, try not to swear again. I'm really angry about it. We've already discussed the ballot and how that's working for us, and the ballot isn't working for us at the moment. We were lucky to get the first two home games of the season. I know you couldn't actually make the last one as you're on holiday, but you're going tomorrow to the sensory room. But then since then, Spurs, United, I think City, we went in for. We haven't got any of them. We've gone in with silvers. We've gone in with reds.
I think we even did the family enclosure for one of the ones recently as well, right?
Yeah. So nothing's working. On the other hand, the backup is always a ticket exchange. The last two home games, I've been counting the amount of empty seats intentionally because I knew we weren't getting in ballots, and I wanted to see how many people are actually genuinely turning up. Now we're at a point in the season where it's not like we're getting for a league title. There are empty seats everywhere on the top tier, especially, and even in the lower tiers. There are empty seats everywhere. So people are putting these on the ticket exchange. Today, I spent an hour and a half approximately on the ticket exchange. An hour this morning. I've had about half an hour since we've been online now. There are tickets available. They've got this new thing with ticket exchange where you can see the whole stadium and you're moving around the stadium. That is showing seats all over the place. Every seat I click, it won't let me move any further. It says it's then not available. So my question is, why show it? Something, we both work in IT, in design, in development. Why is that there? That's really peeing me off. Then I flick to the other way, which is just find a seat and it's saying nothing's available, nothing's available. But this morning over around lunchtime, I spent an hour on the ticket exchange, just hitting the refresh button, and new seats were becoming available on the ground. You could see them popping up, but as soon as you clicked on it, it was gone. I got to one where I managed to almost get it moved into the basket. Like I got one step further, and it still said there it was unavailable. That's just really annoying. Like it's heartbreaking because I want to be in the ground tomorrow. I can't be. I'll do anything to get a ticket, and it's just not working for me. It's the fact that they're showing tickets are available and they're not, and then also I don't understand how all these tickets can come up over the period of an hour. I'd be online for an hour, actively refreshing, seeing all these tickets pop up, selecting them, and then I'm not. I know I appreciate there might be other people doing the same thing, but there can't be that many people doing the same thing. So and it's still like after so many refreshes, Arsenal's going, "Are you a bot? Are you a bot?" I'm like, I'm not a bot, but clearly there are bots in here still. Like, sorry, they haven't fixed the problem. It's not working. The ballot's not working. This isn't not working. And then to add it all, like the way the ballot is also failing us is in the ground. So the third thing is, I mentioned it last time, but I want to mention it again and be interesting to hear about what it's like tomorrow. The atmosphere's gone. It's gone. Like it just that atmosphere that was there last year is not there in the same way. Last game we sat in the same place. It was much more quieter. There were the thing for me, it was most disappointing when we go a goal down. The fans were not, and this isn't being critical of individuals. It's just us as a collective, as a unit. We were not behind the team. When Steve Saliba made that mistake last year and he let that goal in, behind the team, we were right behind them. We were geeing them up. We were like it is what it is. Let's just get on and do what we need to do. When we went 1-0 down against Fulham, pin drop, nothing. And for me, it was just so frustrating because it's like I don't know if that's got the ticket situation has something to do with that, the ballot situation, like the wrong people are in the not getting the tickets that the people who were getting tickets last year. It might be completely different. It might be completely something different. But my fear is it's related. It's all related. People aren't sitting in the same seats as you were saying. The same people aren't coming to the ground who are the regulars. People who are usually getting a ticket and not getting the opportunity to get in, and the atmosphere's gone. So yeah, just my review at the start is just really an unhappy one.
I mean,
I start the pod in a negative vibe.
No, of course not. But you've got to be real, right? And I think there's so many good points you've raised. I would just, to say it's becoming. It feels like to me like a tourist thing now, where a ticket to a game is an event. It is a thing that people gravitate towards. It's like, once in a lifetime for some people to get there. And I appreciate that ability to be able to have that. And I think that there is something that is happening with that allows that to kind of happen. That will mean that tickets for the game are harder to come by. And I would also say to your other point, I'm not necessarily sure that the crowd being behind us is not necessarily just to do with the people that are in the ground, but expectation. Last year, we never anticipated getting to where we were. We never anticipated getting anywhere close to Man City or even being in first for as long as we were. No one thought that was going to happen. And so the vibe in the ground was significantly different. Whereas this year, there's everyone's excited. Everyone's got higher expectations, and you can sense it when we are not playing to the capability that we believe we can. You're seeing crowds like we should be putting teams like Fulham to the sword. And admittedly, I probably watched about half an hour on my phone on the beach as I was trying to watch the kids and watch the game at the same time. And I did see us come get the 2 goals back and take the lead. And when they went down to 10 men, I assumed it was a done deal. I couldn't watch the last 20 minutes, and I'm probably frustrated with myself that I couldn't, but we should have done that, and we should be putting teams like that to the sword. So I think there's a level of expectation from our fans that we should just be doing the business on teams like this and should be much further ahead. But to temper expectations a little bit, this is a project. This is not the end game yet. This is not the. I know that I've said it before that Arteta feels like he's speed running towards the Premier League, but this is not the finished article. We're not there yet, and I think this is going to be quite a painful season in places. If I was to be honest, I think that we're going to experience some pain. We're going to talk about that a little bit later. That for me is my written review. It's the pain that is. It feels like it's coming, and that as games start to come thick and fast, and we're going to talk about the Champions League draw in a moment. you know, there's going to be some teams that have looked really, really strong so far that are going to start struggling. Newcastle, you know, already looking like they're struggling. They're going to be playing a lot more games, and they're, you know, I think you've put it in your notes that their group looks horrible, absolutely horrible. I mean, for a neutral, amazing, great piece of football to kind of watch and spectate on, but not something that they want to be part of for sure. So, yeah, a bit of pains incoming. I think that's my review.
Yeah,
right.
Let's
we've 10 minutes in. God, how we've missed each other, right, Jace? That's what the feeling that I'm getting. Right, let's go and talk about the window. The transfer deadline day was yesterday. The window is closed. A lot of business happened. Arsenal were not one of the teams. We got our business done nice and early, but on reflection, maybe some of that you might feel a bit differently. I just want to, before I kind of hand over to you, Jace, to talk a little bit about what your feelings are. I just want to quickly run down who we got in, who we got out, just for clarity. So in, we had Declan Rice, Kai Havertz, Jurrien Timber, and David Raya. And then on outs, we had a lot of outgoing. So Rob Holding, Lokonga, Balogun, Tavares, Pablo Mari. God, I'm not going to pronounce Okongwo. I think he's the goalkeeper, right? The sub-goalkeeper. Yeah. Renarsson, Xhaka, Turner, Tierney, Maitland-Niles, Austin Trusty, and Marquinhos. All of our outs. So a lot of outs there. On the balance of things, I think if I'd have asked you this question some time back, Chase, your answer might have been a bit different than it is right now. But, you know, on the back of transfer deadline day yesterday, how are you feeling about Arsenal's window? How do you rate it? Do you think we did enough?
I'm still a little bit undecided by it, but let me share my thoughts. You mentioned we got our business done early. Did we? Because business can be defined in two things, ins and outs. The ins were done early. The outs were going down to the wire. And why can't we sell players? That's everyone's asking it. You know, when you look at, we've already talked about what Man United brought Højlund in for, but to sell for 35 million Flo Balogun, it's not enough. But we obviously were coming to the end of the deadline and we had to sell him. And that was the only real concrete offer we had in. And it wasn't to go to a rival Premier League club, because I think Chelsea inquired and we told them to politely go away. Granit Xhaka, if he's the one, I just really wish we didn't sell him. I would have gone, if we're really serious about this season, we need depth in midfield. And I wanted to add to it and not let it go. Like, I know we brought Havertz in. I know we've brought Rice in. We'll talk about potential party injury that's just come about. So, like, I'm really disappointed that we let Granit Xhaka go, because now that's a big hole for me in our midfield. Tierney, how the hell we couldn't get him over the line and get some money for him, and the fact that he's gone on loan to Real Sociedad, that's ridiculous. Like, sometimes you just have to sell to the Premier League rival club. Like, look at the season Newcastle are having. Like, we were clearly playing games with Newcastle because the interest was genuinely there at the beginning of the season. And I don't know if it's we didn't want to sell to a rival club, or we were trying to haggle because they've got loads of money. It was like, I think we're regretting that now. Like, look at the start that they've had. Are they really going to be that big a threat? I don't know, is the honest answer. I don't think they're going to be as big a threat as they were last year. And we're there with Kieran Tierney on loan. Yeah, okay, they're paying all his wages, but we're not making any money in for him. Like, people like just Renarsson, like, what's he still doing at the club? Just let him go. Just cut his contract. Like, I don't understand why we're loaning him out. Just let him go. Cedric and Pepe, we'll come on to talk about them. Cedric should, I think, I'd imagine there's going to be a mutual cancellation of Cedric's contract. There's no way I see him staying. The only player that's left that I feel a tear for is Rob, because he's Arsenal through and through. And as much as I know that you've mentioned a few times in the pod that, you know, he's not quite at the level, and and maybe I know he's not your favorite, always necessarily your favorite player, but like for me, I just emotionally attached to him, and we were both at the cup final with Diego Costa. I think I saw you post a tweet, just the tap on the temple. Like, you know, he's Rob Holding isn't the best defender in the world. He's also not. He's not our Harry Maguire. He didn't cost us 80 million. He won us a cup final. He like. I'm sad to see him leave. I would be much rather, he wants to play, so absolutely had to go and play. So fair play to him. But I'm sad to see him leave. So I think that's my kind of where I'm at a little bit, is we didn't get our business done early in a way. Like for me, it's getting people out the door as well. Because if we had got more people out the door and we could have got better deals earlier on in the window, which was no reason why we couldn't, I think we were just being. It seems to be that we're being a bit funny. We're buying from rival clubs, we're not selling to rival clubs, and I think that's just the way the Premier League is working now. So that's a problem for me. And if we'd have done that, maybe we have more cash in the bank. Maybe we're buying a Saka backup. Maybe we're dipping in and buying a Timber. I mean, there's this question of whether we want to buy a Timber backup because of his injury, because of whether then we'll have a defensive problem in a year's time. But if that helps us win a title, I don't care. I do not care. So that's for me. Like, the window was feeling pretty solid when we brought all those players in. I was like, we were like 8s and 9s. The fact that we can't sell also impacts that view of business. In my opinion, it's two sides to it, and that brings it right down to about a 7, maybe a 6.5. Because Timber, you have to take into consideration, like, we did bring Timber and he's injured, so like we've basically brought in Raya, Havertz, and Rice, and we're about to go into the Champions League, and we let Granit Xhaka go. It doesn't look that great at the moment, in my opinion. I'm not trying to be intentionally negative. Like, I'm behind the boys. We've got to do the best we can with the squad that we have, behind Arteta too. But I still think we could have. I still think there's major improvements we could have made there. So yeah. That's another rant really there. So I'm going to shut up for a sec and ask you, what was your rating on the window?
I don't know if I want to contend with you at the moment, Jace. You feel like you're on one today. It's been 17 minutes in and I've not seen the positivity that I'm used to. It's something. Yeah, like it's weird actually, because like you say, when we were at the start of the window, we kind of asked the question. We were doing such a great way of handling negotiations with players. We were selling players on the idea of the project, and they were then sold on that. We could buy them. It doesn't matter what the club said. As long as we offered the money, they were having to sell because the player was sold on the project, and we were doing great business. And the signings that we had, if you'd have kind of done some of the outgoings at that point in time, we would have been giving it 8s and 9s. It would have been an amazing bit of business. The few areas that I kind of call out here is that the outgoings in particular were very late. And like you say, because we'd already bought what we wanted to, and we had the injury as well, teams knew that we were kind of on the back foot. They know that we needed to sell. They know that we can't, you're going to have to. You haven't got a choice. Like Balogun, they knew they don't have to offer 50 million because you're going to sell him. Can't keep him. You're going to have to. And thus they could pony us back until we paid and took whatever money we could. Granit Xhaka, I know I get what you're saying, Jace, but like admittedly, he wanted to go back to Germany. There's no keeping him. I suppose we could have kept him to contract and kind of said, you're going to have to stay. But we got that last season out of him was an unreal season. And I feel like he said, I've given you this. I need you to give me it back. And Arteta is a very people-orientated manager. And although he can give people the cold shoulder and kind of give them, as we've seen and talked about in previous pods, I just can't see him doing that with Xhaka. The biggest thing for me, though, out of this whole window and why I'm rating it like a 5 out of 10 at the moment, was because I looked at this. I was pulling up the stats of who we've taken out of the squad in the outgoings and what we've lost. So we've lost over almost 4,500 minutes in playing time in the Premier League alone from these players that have gone out. Most of that comes from Granit Xhaka, of course, but Rob Holding did over 500 minutes on his own. And Kieran Tierney, I couldn't believe this. He had 21 appearances off the bench. A significant amount of appearances off the bench, right? And if you think of where he was playing, he was obviously replacing Zinchenko, who has been injured too, which is crazy. He did have 6 starts as well. So in all of that, we, like I said, 4,500 minutes almost. We've also lost 8 goals and 8 assists. Do we think that we are going to get 8 goals and 8 assists from Declan Rice and Kai Havertz this season? Now, if I was going to say Timber was in that lot, I might have said maybe. Now that Timber's not in that group, do I think that you're going to get 16 returns from Declan Rice and Kai Havertz? I am saying no. Declan Rice can play like that, but isn't playing like that in our system as we see at the moment. And Kai Havertz does need time, as we've seen enough of already. So my biggest problem is you look at the other teams at the moment, like Man City. I know you're going to watch Match of the Day later on, so I'm not going to spoil it for you, but they are scoring for fun right now. Their goal difference is already pretty high, as is Brighton's, as is other teams in and around that area, and ours is not. We are, 1 goal, 2 goals here and there. Where are we getting these other goals through? Can Martinelli and Saka continue at the same vein of form that they did last year when they were getting double digits? So far, looking unlikely. And this is where, for me, I'm just a bit, this is pessimistic as anything, isn't it, Jace? You had your negative rant. I'm going to do my negative rant. But I'm just worried that we haven't replaced the numbers. If I was playing like Moneyball here, like that for me is the worry that I look at on paper. And that's not to say that, if luck's on your side, if a run of form's on your side, if you've got players high in confidence on your side, then of course you're going to get those. But you look at some of those players right now, Kai Havertz is not a confident man. And if he looks at social media, he ain't going to get any better at that confidence either. So yeah, for me, not a great window on reflection now. But if you had have asked me this before the Timber injury, I reckon I probably would have been much higher on it than I am at this point in time.
6 loans as well, right? 6 loans. Like,
I mean, you do have to say that a lot of that has to do with FFP. FFP is playing a big part in how people are doing business, other than Chelsea, who are just, I don't know, flipping the bird to whoever runs FFP. But across the board, there's been a lot of loans.
Kieran Tierney and Tavares, 2 loans that for me stick out and go, why? We turned 13 million down from Forest, and then we loaned him to Forest anyway. What are we doing? Tierney was 25 million. I thought we could get 30, but if we couldn't get 30, take 25. Don't put him out on loan. I don't know. Like, for me, there's just some things that don't sit right.
Okay.
Do we want to talk? Well, do we want to talk about Pepe and Cedric?
I mean, we can do. I know your feelings on Cedric are there alone. I actually am thinking, if I'm looking, I know that we're going to talk about the party injury later on.
Oh, don't say it.
I could consider that Cedric could stay. I don't want him to stay. I'm not saying I do want him to stay, Jace. I'm just saying that there's a possibility. If Partey is injured for 3 months, like they say he is, and one of the funniest things or most interesting things I think at the moment is that Partey has been playing right back, and everyone's been screaming at it. Why are we doing this? Why are we doing this? It's quite interesting now that if he's injured, that injury doesn't really impact us as much as maybe you think it did. If this was last season, like it was against Man City, and we'd lost him, we were screwed. We are not going to win that game, and we didn't. We got hammered. I'm not so worried this time around.
I am. Let's talk. Can we talk about this now? Because we're on it.
Go on then. Go on. Tell me your feelings then, because I just think that if he is injured, it's not going to be as.
Well, the only reason I want to talk. Only reason is because you bring up. We talk about Cedric at right back. Partey wasn't playing right back for half of the game. He was inverted in the midfield in his usual midfield position. So there was something tactical that Arteta was doing. The question I have around whether it was working or not was because there was a big hole then at right back at certain times, and it wasn't working. So it's like, if you're going to there was an interview. I don't know if you saw the interview Arteta did this week where people were questioning, like the reporters were questioning some of his tactics, and he
said going up Finsbury Road or going on the M25. That one.
Yeah, he was talking about the analogies of how he gets to work, like depending on the circumstance, and that how football was always changing, and so depending on the circumstance, you're never going to see the same squad. Like that back four that started last season doesn't exist anymore. Was his point, because the game has changed and you adapt with the times and changing circumstances, and use the analogy of driving to work based on the circumstance of the M25 being traffic or getting a punctured tire or whatever. But for me, I just feel we need Gabriel back in the squad, so that's important. And then I think that will sort some of our defensive issues out. But I don't know if I want to see Cedric at right back. On the other hand, I've looked at it and gone, let's just give Pepe a chance. Because there was loads of stats going around, you've probably seen them, about the combined, I think it's like
Anthony
and
versus
Sancho. Anthony and Sancho combined like appearances and stats since their time at United versus Pepe's appearance and stats, or goals and assists. It's just like Pepe's like superior or equal to or superior. And it was kind of like, he wasn't actually that bad for us. It's more that he didn't do the kind of work that Arteta wanted him to do. He didn't play that way, but he did get goals and he did get assists, and he has an amazing left foot when he cuts in from the right. And he was actually quite impactful in certain games, not last season, but season before, when he came on as a sub. He got a few kind of key goals. And so if we need someone to come on for Saka when he's knackered and he's dangerous, I'm like, okay, well, I wanted to buy a right winger. I wanted Javi, who went to Villa. I wanted Javi Simmons, who went to Leipzig. And we'll talk about PSV in a bit in the Champions League draw, because that's where Javi Simmons was last year. We're not getting them, then we have to do with what we got. So you've got to integrate him back in, I think. Yeah. Because it's going to cost us the same amount of money to pay him off.
Yeah, I mean, it is. We're never going to terminate his contract. That's not going to happen. It's just you'd be burning money, and there's no, we're going to get some remuneration if we sell him on at some point in time. We're going to have to. So, yeah,
just
I know you don't want to see Cedric, but I never know. You could see him.
Yeah, you might. I was going to say the Saudi Arabia window is still open, isn't it? So I think that's the only hope, that you try and sell Pepe that way. Cool. Yeah. All right.
Where we go next, we are going to look at the champions. My horrible rendition of the Champions League theme song. Apologies for that for anybody listening. We had a relatively kind draw, I would say, in terms of teams, and I'm interested to hear your thoughts on it, Jace. You're shaking your head. I saw a tweet from you that said this is possibly a group of death. Can you tell me your feelings towards that and why?
Yeah, I mean, I disagree a little bit with the point that you said there. I think it is a little bit of a tricky draw. Sorry, you did say it was. You said it was a favourable draw. That's what you said, right? Or did you say a tricky draw?
I think it was favourable. Yeah.
Yeah. I don't know. There's something that doesn't sit right for me. Sevilla are a very tricky team in Europe. Like, I know we beat them in the Emirates Cup like last season, like 6-0, whatever it was, but this is not the Emirates Cup. When they play in Europe, they're on it. That's always the case. So I don't see that as an easy game. Particularly PSV. I don't enjoy playing PSV ever. They're always, doesn't matter who's their manager, what team they play. They are just a horrible team to play. Like through the years, I remember a long time ago with Van Bommel and players of that caliber. It wasn't a fun game. Last year, we lost to them away in the Europa League in the group stage. I think it was the only game we lost. We had a horrible home game against them. I mean, you and I sat next to the away fans who are intimidating as hell, chucking things at us and rioting. It's just not a fun, like, I mean, that was kind of funny, but don't endorse it. Yeah, it's just not a fun game. I think we'll have our backs up against the wall when we're in Eindhoven. And Lons are actually a really good side. I haven't actually watched too much of their incomings and outgoings over the window, so I don't know if they've lost some of the players that they had last year. It got them in the Champions League. My suspicion is they probably have lost a few, because they were very good last year. Very, very good. A strong side. There could have been easier draws. You look at Man City's draw. It's like they've got two teams. They've got young boys a team I don't think I've ever heard of before, and then I think also Leipzig, which is not the hardest team for Man City to play. And I look at their draw and I'm like, well, that's an easy win in the group. Granted, we could be Newcastle. That's a little funny. But yeah, I don't think it's the easiest of draws in my opinion. I think we could have had easier. I mean, I'm glad to avoid Bayern Munich, but I guess we're saving those for round 16, first knockout stage, right? That's when we're going to get Bayern, so it doesn't really matter. So tell me why you think it's favourable. What's got you so positive on this?
Why am I positive? I kind of think there's a good opportunity for us here. You know, there's nothing there that's particularly super scary. Yes, I agree with you. Sevilla have some elite European pedigree. The Europa League in particular is a competition that they just seem to turn up for, won it 7 times, just doing amazingly well in that competition. And it's something that they feel very much like when the lights are bright, European nights, they just show up. And so that there could be some difficulty there, but yeah, the other teams I think that we can put to the sword. I think we've got a great home record in general competition that I think we can do well at home, get 9 points from those games, and then take the opportunity to rest some players. There's a really good opportunity for us to progress as winners here. This is a group that is totally winnable from our perspective, and coming first and then having a slightly easier next round, which is something that we certainly would need in the opportunity to rest some of our players. Sevilla as well, like I think they put their whole team up for sale, basically because they were in severe amounts of debt. And so, you know, I get what we're saying, that they have some pedigree behind them, but you know, there's a lot of other nonsense with their club that is probably not going to work out in their favor. And so the only thing I worry about from an Arsenal perspective, well, actually 2 things. First is complacency. It's typical of Arsenal in a European night to just not turn up. We've seen it enough times through the years that we just get flustered by the competition. And I think that, you know, getting up and riled and ready for a game at the Bernabeu or at the Allianz would be slightly easier than getting ready for a game away at Lens. I just don't feel like our players are going to be necessarily as excited, as vibrant, as ready for those type of games. Maybe there's something there that worries me a little bit, that maybe we won't get up for those games as much, and we kind of underestimate these teams, and thus we can particularly become complacent in thinking we'll just turn them over, and we don't. I think that's how we drew. Did we draw with PSV when we played them at home? The game that we went to, I think it was a draw.
Yeah, it was, and we got torn to shreds by Xavi Simons that game.
Xavi Simons, yeah. So, you know, we should have turned them over. They were there for the taking. We were in prime form at that point in time. We should have beat them. And it's just something that we struggle to kind of do. And, you know, this is a young team. This is now the 3rd youngest team in the Premier League. A true lack of Champions League experience. You know, this is the stage where individuals like Saka, Martinelli, and Declan Rice can announce themselves on a real global scale. I granted that Declan won the Conference League last year, but let's be clear, that's not an elite competition, right? This is it. This is where elite Premier athletes go to perform, and this is their opportunity. And I do have slight concerns that there's a possibility that they might not, you know, the light shining bright, the grandeur of the occasion might feel too much. But I'm coming into this with quite a high level of positivity. I do think that, you know, Jace, you were here probably 3 to 4 weeks ago saying we're going to win the Champions League. And this is a prime group for us to okay, fine. Well, I'm glad your positivity hasn't waned. You know, heading into this and looking at that group, that's still a good possibility. And I think we're 3rd favourites, I think, or 4th favourites to win the Champions League, which is crazy to think about where we came from. We were nowhere near this competition for 7 years. I can't remember how long it was. Was it 6 or 7 years?
Yeah. So what is it like? City, Madrid, Bayern, us?
Yes. Yeah, that is exactly it.
Yeah.
And even then, Bayern Munich, you know, Not, I mean, seeing Harry Kane turn up to Old Trafford and put them to the sword would be fantastic to watch. But I'm not as scared as Bayern as maybe I once was.
No, they're not quite the same pedigree as they were, and also we're better than we were when they were at their top.
Yeah,
like we were.
I mean, we're playing Mustafis and Scalaccis and whoever else. The people I just don't want anywhere near this club at this point in time.
Yeah, we're a different place. So yeah, hopefully we would see a different performance from us. Okay, should we go to United preview? I don't think there's much more to say about the Champions League until it's back.
Let's do it.
Let's do it.
I want you, probably the first thing I'd like to do, Jace, I reckon, is probably just have a look at our starting 11. We've already talked a little bit about the Partey injury and what that might mean to our setup. Do you think, how do you think that changes how we approach this game? What do you think our starting 11 is going to be?
I have no bloody idea. Arteta is, I mean, it's whatever he's trying to do in fooling rival teams is working. I have no clue what the starting lineup's going to be, because I know what I want it to be, but I don't know. I don't feel like we're going to see that, because when I haven't seen it in the first two home games. Like, Thomas Partey is injured now, so we're told, thanks to the Ghanaian Football Association leaking it, because Arsenal posted a picture of him in training today. But him at right back was a complete surprise, and I didn't want to see it, and I was really skeptical about what I've seen in the first two games of him doing that there. And then to drop Gabriel as well, when I would have had, the starting. I've already said the lineup previously I wanted. It doesn't change much. Zinni left back, White at right back, normal centre backs for Saliba and Gabriel. Partey's out, so Rice is going to go in that hole. Then you're going to have to have Havertz, because Rice can't play in the left 8 with Odegaard. And then I'm assuming that we would go with Eddie up top and Martinelli and Saka on the wings. Trossard can't start after his start against Fulham. He was not good. And I don't think Jesus will be ready yet to start up front. He'll probably come on as a sub, which is a good sub to have on the bench. So that's my assumption on what team I'd like to see, and maybe it is what we will see. But I genuinely have no. I think I have no idea, mate. I have no idea.
I know you're saying no idea, but if Partey's not playing right back, what other option at right back do we have? Ben White has to play right back. There's no other option there. And I mean, fine, but let's I just don't think you're wheeling out Tomiyasu first game against Man United as a start. I just don't see it happening, and thus if Ben White moves out, I just don't think there's a hope in hell that Kiwior and Saliba partner up. I just can't see it myself. I think Zinchenko, because Partey's out and he's been doing that inverted role, and Zinni should be back, we go back to that inverted role on that left hand side, because otherwise we don't have the overload of midfield that we need.
Tell you something that I could see, actually. I could see us playing a back three of White, Saliba, and Kiwior, having a back three, because I can see Zinni playing in midfield potentially.
Who plays on the right? Who plays as the right wing back?
We either have Saka going box to box, or you put Tomiyasu in. I think Kiwior was solid against Fulham, actually. He played all right. Like, he was one of the standout performers for me, I thought. He was pretty solid, no mistakes. So, yeah, I don't mind Kiwior playing at the back with Saliba. But I think we have to play Gabriel. I don't understand why we wouldn't. I'm assuming he'll be back in. I'm assuming it was just waiting for the window to close and get all those rumours of those £120 million bids from Saudi Arabia. So, yeah. What about you? Is there anything different to what I've said? Or are you pretty much
think there's a chance? Kind of. The only thing I was going to say that maybe could happen is Jorginho coming in. Jorginho, Rice, and Odegaard in front.
Yeah, but he's not match fit. He's not played.
It's not very dynamic, but I feel it's.
He's not going to.
Did he not come on? There was one game that he came on.
he's not played that many minutes, even in preseason. So, and he's, I don't see how we can do that. Given his solid bench player coming from the bench to stabilize the midfield, absolutely. But he's not had game time for me to be in the starting lineup and play 60 minutes minimum. I've not seen it. I mean, I know it has to start at some point, but I wouldn't be doing it against United. I mean, I get, but I don't know. Arteta's trying lots of different things. Can we just while we're on Arsenal, because there's a few more things about Arsenal before we move on to United. Who would you play, Havertz, or would you play? I mean, Fabio is brilliant, absolutely brilliant when he came on in the second half against Fulham, ran the show, so good. And I wondered whether you'd play Smith Rowe or Fabio instead of Havertz.
So I watched parts of it. I also listened to your pod, Jace, where you dug me in massively on Fabio Vieira. So massive kudos to that. I just don't see, obviously Havertz does some of the defensive duties that left-sided needs to do that I don't know if Fabio can. And Man United are a team. I mean, it'd be interesting to see how they line up because they've got some new signings. They've got their midfield's crocked, their defense is crocked. It'd be interesting to see how they line up and then how that might shape how we approach this game. Fabio deserves a start based on what he delivered against Fulham, but I just don't see him getting it. I feel that there's an opportunity there for Fabio to get muscled quite heavily off the ball. We've already seen that he's not necessarily got the athleticism for big games and big teams, of which Man United do have some players of that build. So not sure for me. I think that Havertz, I think he's sticking with the experiment because he just really hopes it comes good. I just hope that we don't stick with it for so long that it becomes a detriment to the rest of the team.
Okay. I mean, I was looking at some of his stats really before kind of he joined us to see how many goals and assists he was getting. So interestingly, 139 games for Chelsea, of which it was 32 goals and 15 assists. Leverkusen, it was 46 goals and 31 assists, but over 150 games, so about 11 games more than what he played for Chelsea. I mean, not the worst stats in the world. Not striker stats, in my opinion. Stats of an attacking midfielder. And if you look at the stats at Chelsea, half the amount of assists that he got at Leverkusen, only 11 games less at Chelsea. What that tells me is that Chelsea weren't playing him in the right position, and his natural position is maybe where Arteta is reverting him to, in that kind of similar role to Odegaard, but on the opposite side. So I guess we have to keep persevering. I mean, you heard what I said in my last pod. There is still genuinely a bit of a frustration. He was not great against Fulham, to be honest. Doesn't mean that, we have to give him time. I keep saying that. We can all be frustrated with his performance. We can, fans can write what they say, what they want on Twitter. But we still have to give him time. We have to give him at minimum half a season. And Fabio Vieira, for example, last year, he had a whole season. He's still coming good. Havertz is a little bit different. He's a slightly higher price bracket and more experience. But, I guess it's just giving him time. I definitely think that his stats show that he has potential.
Even some of his stats in the first starts to us, he's I think I saw ground covered. He covers the most ground of any player, and he did it in the first two games for Arsenal. Even if he does look lackadaisical, we've discussed before, he's certainly putting in some work somewhere. And the manager is obviously seeing something both in games and in training that he still. Arteta doesn't strike me as someone that's just going, I need to stick with it because I've made the decision. We've seen him give the cold shoulder enough to players to know that he's not that type. So there's certainly something he sees in him that, it hopefully pays dividends in the future.
Yeah, I think so. But I'm not sure if I would. I would start in this game, but he'll be off very quickly if he's not. I would like to see Fabio on and give him the chance after this performance against Fulham if he's not performing. We'll be quick about our changes.
I would say, obviously, yeah, Man United generally, they've had a lot of injuries as well, worse than ours for sure, particularly at the back. That is something that the likes of Saka. I mean, if Reguilon starts, he's just gone on loan from Spurs. I'm sure he's been roasted by Saka before.
Yes.
If he hasn't, he certainly is going to get it tomorrow, in my opinion. So I'm looking forward to seeing some damage that both Martinelli and Saka can do. And I know we've not said about here, but Eddie obviously got his call up for England this week. Massive congratulations to him, because he
well deserved.
Yeah, exactly. It is well deserved. The fact that we've discussed that little clip from the Amazon directory so many times and saw Balogun exit, and we've seen Lokonga exit, who is having that conversation with, Eddie needs to start this game. He has scored against Man United before, absolutely rescued us last season against them. I really hope he can do some incredible damage tomorrow to their defence.
Yeah, I hope so. Would they be playing Harry Maguire? Because
from what I'd seen, it was Martinez and someone did put Maguire. I just can't see it. The fact that he got an England call up, hasn't played a minute of football this year is baffling.
He didn't go, did he? He stayed, didn't he? He stayed at United.
Yeah, he stayed. Yeah, he's still at United. He wanted to fight for his place, and they've had Varane, and who else was their centre back? I think they've had another injury to. It might be Lindelof and Martinez as their centre back pairing, I would say.
It's one where we have to check the news. Let's have a look.
I'm pretty sure it'll be like Wan-Bissaka, Lindelof, Martinez, and then maybe Reguilon.
So, just looking. So, Man United injuries. We have Mason.
Because we've had Malaysia. Mount. Is it Malaysia out as well? Mason Mount's out from the middle, but obviously they're going to have. They signed a new guy. I don't think he'll be registered in time.
Luke Shaw, Traore, Malaysia. Yeah. Malaysia. Harry Maguire. Oh, Harry Maguire is supposedly back now. I don't see him. I know Varane is injured. He's not on that list though. Maybe I'm looking at an old list.
Yeah. But like I said, I think that defensively they look, although they are dangerous going forward, they have a lot of members of attack: Rashford, Fernandes, Garnacho. I won't going to mention Anthony in the same breath or sentence because I don't think he's it. But they have potential to do damage, and I think we also have the potential to do damage. I think it's going to be quite a high scoring affair. To close out our preview, Jace, I suppose I'm interested to hear what do you think the score's going to be?
3-1 to the Arsenal.
I could have, if anybody had asked me to say what's Jason going to give us the score, I would have said that anyway.
I genuinely actually think that probably is for the first time this season. Not like I know I always jokingly say it because, and I actually feel very vindicated with we always got one in us to let in. We always do, and we haven't. I don't think we kept it clean. We shouldn't. We haven't managed to keep a clean sheet when we should have in the first two games. So, if I'm happy to be wrong and lose the points on our little mini game we have with Spence as well. But I think we will let one in. I think that's just what we do. But I also think that we'll score a few goals against them. So 3-1 is I think actually a realistic scoreline because actually we are under pressure tomorrow to turn up and be on it. We need to put a performance in. We need to score more than 2 goals. And it tends to be if we score 3, we turn it off anyway. We turn the button off and just pack up shop. So 3-1, I think, is actually a realistic scoreline. Of course, when we batter them 8-1, I'd love that, but that's not going to happen. So, yeah. Scoreline for you. Scoreline for you, mate. What are you going for?
So I think we'll also score 3, but I think Man United will it'll either be 3-2 or 3-3. I think there's going to be a lot of goals in this game. Yeah, I really hope we win. If you had have asked me before the party news, were we going to win, I would have said yes. I think we didn't get the chance to discuss, but obviously Højlund is apparently fit. I think he did talk about his woeful stats in terms of GAs over the games that he had in Serie A.
I'll go to that. So Serie A, 32 games, 9 goals, 4 assists. The Austrian Bundesliga, 18 games, 9 goals, 3 assists. Then he played in the Danish Super League before that, nothing. 19 games, nothing. And he played in the Danish Under-19 Boys League, 27 games, 15 goals, 3 assists, which is better for volume of games. I don't know. I mean, I would be very surprised to see him start anyway if he's not played it.
Yeah, I mean, maybe, but like, I just think it's very, Super Sunday, written in the stars. Some of some of these things. It's just the opportunity when it knocks. Is he going to answer? It's possible. I don't want to see it, but I kind of get those impressions. It's like, no one expects him to do well. Here he is turning up against the second place team from last season, getting a goal at their gaff. It's those kind of scripts that I don't like, but commonly kind of happen, which is frustrating.
Or he could just be Darwin Núñez Mark II.
I mean, not Darwin Núñez from last week.
Not this season's Núñez, last season's Núñez.
Yeah. Right. That'll do for our preview. I don't know if you had anything for the parking lot. I had a quick thing, but over to you if you've got anything, Jace, first.
Nothing. I've already ranted about the tickets, so nothing for the parking lot today. But
all right,
talk to me. What's in the parking lot for you?
Well, it's nothing major. It's so obviously it's Man United tomorrow. I think Jace already mentioned it at the top of the podcast. I will be taking my 2 sons to the Arsenal sensory room, which is they converted one of the old television studios to allow neurodiverse individuals to go and watch football in a more welcoming, friendly environment. It's very different to watching games that I would either watch with Jace normally because you can't hear anything. You're literally in a soundproof room. But I will be heading to Instagram. If you subscribe to the channel or follow us on Instagram or Twitter, I'll be posting some pictures and videos and stuff there. If anybody wants to follow the experience, see what it's like, see where it is, and see what the match day experience is like for people with neurodiversity, do give it a little watch because, I'll be trying to do a little bit throughout the day just to give a bit of an insight into what it's like. And I know that you're disappointed that you're not going to be there, Jace. I couldn't get a friendly uncle Jace in the room with me. But you never know. Ticket Exchange might be kind to you in the morning or later on tonight. Let's see.
I'll keep hitting that refresh button, see what comes up. But I hope you have a great day out. I hope more importantly, the boys enjoy it, and especially Dex. Hopefully that's a pleasant environment to watch the game in. So, let's hope for 3 points.
Nice. All right. Well, thank you, everyone, for listening to us on this preview. Hopefully, Jason and I will be back early next week to talk about the 3 points that we just gained against Manchester United. If we don't speak to you before then, like I say, what should people do, Jace, if they don't already, if they're watching this video on YouTube?
Thumbs up, please. Comments, be nice. And any questions, let us know. We'll answer them in the next pod.
We can take some of the bad ones too, Jace. We're thick-skinned enough. We can handle some of it. Just try and be nice.
I crumble easily.
If you're listening to this on your podcast provider of choice, what should they do there, Jace?
5 stars, no less. Else Grev will come around your house. And again, any questions or comments, leave them. Or a nice review. A nice review would be nice.
Yeah, lovely stuff. All right, well, we'll speak to you again soon. 3 points for the Arsenal tomorrow. We'll speak to you again early next week. Thank you, everybody, and good night.
Cheers, guys.